at here. We got y'all something to eat. Look at here. Woo. Look at that. Look at that. Good old baby boys. Oh, my boys. Yeah.
And one girl.
Yep, got a girl. Hang on a minute. I'm coming, girl. All right, Miss Dixie. You and Mr. Davis. Come on here. Come on here, Miss Candy. Getting all this food, good Lord have mercy. Y'all are spoiled rotten. I have to clean it out all the time. I know, you just want to lay down here and just be. Let's see if we can't beat you. Technology here. Now we got a little bit of cleanup work to do here. A little washing out to do, because you just don't make syrup. It's a long process. You spend more time, or about as much time, getting ready as you do actually cooking the syrup. Hello everybody, it's Danny and Wanda back from Deepsouth Homestead. Guys, today is the day. We're getting ready to make our cane syrup. I don't know that I've ever made it this late. We haven't had any cold weather yet to amount to anything. It is December the 3rd, and technically we don't have any cold weather coming. I looked till January, but we've got to make syrup. So, you know, making syrup is not, it don't just happen. It's a long process, and getting ready to make syrup many times takes longer than actually making the syrup does. Because, yeah, you're going to hear some guns in the background. We got a neighbor shooting a high-powered rifle, which, hey, I think that's great in the country. But the first thing we have to do here is we're going to strip it. Now, if you're saving your cane for your seed cane, you don't want to strip it because this stripper will jerk the eyes off of it. So that's one thing. You want to make sure we're going to strip it, and then we're going to top it. Now, topping it can be done the day of, depending on the year. If it's a real wet year, you can do it up to 2 or 3 days in advance, so that some of the moisture evaporates out of the stalk of cane, so that you don't actually have too much water to cook out of the syrup whenever you're cooking it. So, and we've shown this process many times before. This year has been an extreme drought year. Now, when I say extreme, I mean, guys, it's been really extreme. We're in the extreme still. We had 2 5/8 inches of rain this past week, and that's the only moisture we've really got, other than maybe a 1/2 inch one time before. And so our cane doesn't need to be topped way ahead of time, because I'm really doubting there's much moisture in it at all. So we're going to, and you want to do this before a freeze. Sugarcane cannot handle a freeze. Now, a light frost, a patchy frost, doesn't hurt it, but a freeze will kill the eyes, because what happens is, inside these right here, this fodder, when you break this fodder down, like this right here, there's water pouring out of it. And that water that's right against it there, see it pouring out of there? That water will freeze the eye that's right there and turn to ice, and it'll actually kill it. So we want to try to do this before a freeze happens. And we do have a lot of new cane popping up here because it's been so long. There's lots of new little shoots popping up here, and we'll cut all that stuff down ahead of time. So really, this is a very simple process. This is a cane stripper right here. I actually sell the pattern to make these out of metal, to go back on the sides of them. You can take 16 gauge metal, or maybe a little bit lighter than 16 gauge. You might be able to get away with 18 gauge or something. It's a very simple process. I sell these patterns on our Etsy store. You can cut your own out. These are homemade. And then the handle is just simply a piece of oak. You can use pine. This was a 2x6. I took the table saw and ripped it out, and then I rounded the edges off on it a little bit so it'd be more comfortable for the hands. And up here I just have a piece of wire twisted in between it on each side, because this needs to be able to expand and go in and out like this, because sugarcane is different sizes in diameter. That's really not a hard process. You can reach up here and just hook that over it like that, and just a little downward pressure to come down it, and there it is. It's clean. There's not really that much to it. And then when you get to a certain point, once you've stripped a bunch of it, you can actually use this points on it here. We'll show you in just a minute here. Let me get some of this kind of so that we're... Now you can take them points like this. I do a lot of times. I'll reach in here and grab this stuff, and I can pull out a lot of the fodder, so when it comes time to cut the cane down, actually I can get to the base of it pretty well once I've stripped it. And there we go. Makes it a whole lot cleaner. When you get ready to chop it off at the ground, you can really get to it a whole lot easier. My cows hear my voice, and when they hear my voice, all they want to do is cry. We call them our welfare cows because they're like babies. They think they got to be with you all the time. You know, when it comes to stripping cane, when it's standing up straight, it is a whole lot simpler to do, and it's not a lot of effort to do it. But now, every now and then, you'll have a windstorm come through, and that wind will lean it, and like we have one laying down right here. Now those kind, they can be kind of aggravating to strip. Now it's not a long process to do this. It's just one of them things. It's a little time consuming. Now, if you don't have a stripper, you can come in here and do this by hand. You can reach up here and you can pull all this stuff off. And it's really not hard, but let me tell you something. Depending on the variety of cane, the very top ones up here, along these edges, and I have a variety over here I'll show you in just a minute. There's like fiberglass stuff all along this here, and it'll get in your hands, and it itches like crazy. Now this is regular chewing cane right here. The bottom parts are usually not bad on the chewing cane, but when you get up close to the top and you start trying to break it down, the tops of this chewing cane will have a fiber in it that will get all in your hands, and you won't know it. I mean, you can't see it, but when you run your hands down it, it has like a fiberglass feeling to it. Let's see if we can, I don't know if you can draw into that. You see them right there. I don't know if you can actually pull that up where you can see those they're like little stickers on it right there. Right in there. Little bitty stickers. And then they're all up in this. And if you reach your hand up here like this to grab it, and you go to start pulling it down, those things right there sticking up will end up in the back sides of your hand here. And it is quite painful. Not at the moment, but down the road it is quite painful. Now depending on the kind of year you've had, if it's a drought year, your cane can be very short if you don't have much moisture where it's at. This cane here, I'm gonna be knocking Miss Wanda in the head.
You're trying.
And that's something I wanted to mention to you here. This cane, when I'm stripping it, because it's a drought cane, it just snaps right off because it's very brickly. It doesn't have the flexibility that it should with a lot of water in it. That tells me with it breaking off like that it's very dry. And keeping that in mind, normally it takes about 100 stalks to squeeze out 10 gallons of juice, and it takes about 10 gallons of juice to cook out a gallon of syrup. And I'm suspecting that this year, if we do 100 stalks, I really believe it's going to cook out more than the gallon of syrup that it normally should, because there's not a lot of moisture in this. There's more sugar content in it than they are water content. So we'll find out the day that we cook it. But right now, we gotta continue stripping this so we can figure out about where our 100 stalks is going to end up being at, because we actually cut a lot of this down and took it over to Pecan Grove and planted some of the wheels over there, so we'd have a good start over there. There's a tall one there.
We have had to have the tractor, and you lift me up in a bucket, remember?
Yep.
I've
been conditions like that where we've had to stand up in the bucket of the tractor to actually reach it.
To actually top it.
Yeah, to top it we have. Yeah, definitely. This is the fodder this year, I can tell you, is a little bit more difficult to get off. And I don't know if it's because it's been a drought year or what. But the fodder's holding on a whole lot harder than it normally does. As we continue to do this, you see how clean looking the patch becomes. You can actually see through it, and you end up with just stems sticking up everywhere. And we kind of look, this one wagon wheel here, and we planting wagon wheels. We have a video showing how that we plant in wagon wheels, and it's the shape of a wagon wheel. We actually learned that from a foreign country. Does a lot better than planting in rows. But we pull this fodder back out away from all of this, because that leaves it where we can get in here with the loppers and we can cut this stuff down, and it's not a big mess when we do it. Then we take the fodder, after we've cut everything down and have it all pulled out to the side, we get it all cut down good and clean. We take all this fodder and we take our stripper here, and you can just hook it onto it, and you can pull it and pile it all back up on top of it. And what that does is that protects the cane through the winter from freezing, because it's like a mulch over the top of it. And very simple procedures to do everything. Nothing really serious here, nothing really hard. A little bit of labor intensive, you know, to strip all the cane. That's just part of it. Now, they do make a cane knife, and I do have them, that you can, it has a hook on the end of the knife, and you can actually strip with a knife. It's just that the strip with a cane knife is a lot more labor intensive than this way is. Yeah, we're just topping right now, and and you want to cut them on an angle. Now, we don't have our good loppers with us. We were planting sugarcane over at Pecan Grove, and we forgot and left them over there. So we don't have our good loppers with us.
They ain't long enough.
They just not, they're kind of short.
But you want to go up into the...
Yeah. You're pulling it, when you cut it, you're pulling away from the sugar cane.
Well, do you want to do this? Because I can't seem to get it.
You want to keep it up. And the reason we cut on an angle is because when you go to stick it in the syrup mill, you got rollers that run together, and if it has a flat end on it, the rollers don't want to grab it. They want to just keep pushing it away from it. So it's best to cut it on like a 45-degree angle if you possibly can. You know, that seems to work out better, we've learned. And I'm actually cutting a little further up into the green than I normally do because I'm really suspecting that this cane's going to... Okay guys, this is basically what you want your cane to look like when you get through stripping it and cutting the top side of it. You want it to look a lot like this right here. And that makes it so much simpler to reach down there with a good pair of loppers and cut them off at the ground. Or you can use a... If you got a weed eater with a blade on it, you know, you can use those in there. They work just as well too, depending on how much you're actually cutting. We're not cutting a lot. We're only cutting like 100 stalks. And this is 17 we have right here. I think there's like 40 in that one right there. So we're probably going to do this clump, that one, and that one. And that should give us pretty close to the 100 stalks that we need to be able to, and we may do just a few more than 100 just to be safe because it's kind of been a dry year. But that should give us about what we need to be able to cook our syrup this year. Now, because it would be such a long video, we're going to wait till we get ready to start squeezing the cane and actually putting it in the pans and doing the cooking and all that. We're going to wait and do that next phase of the video in that video, so that it won't be so long in this one. And that'll be setting up the furnace, setting up the pans, you know, squeezing the sugar cane, collecting the juice, things to that nature. And then cooking it out and showing you what we look for while we're cooking it. So I want to take you along on this part of the journey and show you that making syrup is not a really easy process. It takes a little time to do it. It doesn't just happen. There's a lot of preparation that goes into preparing for it. So thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.